Hello, people. Welcome back to Verb Basics. This is part 2. The next thing we need to focus on after our look at action verbs and linking verbs is helping verbs and verb phrases. The main verb of a sentence may be accompanied by 1, 2, or 3 helping verbs. Helping verbs are also called auxiliary verbs. Now, guys, if I ever ask you to memorize all the action verbs in English, then I want you to turn to me and say, Mr. Jones, you're crazy because there are thousands of them. However, I do very much recommend that students sit down and memorize the 22 helping verb forms. As I was saying in the previous segment of this lesson about linking verbs, helping verbs are very similar in that students often do not recognize them as helping verbs. A lot of the time they're not really sure what they are. They think that they're conjunctions or prepositions or some other such thing. And it's very important for a whole variety of purposes that you can identify helping verbs, because you need to be able to pick out the verb phrases in sentences. And if you want to go any higher in grammar than parts of speech, you've got to be able to identify the verb phrase, and that includes the main verb plus helping verbs. And the helping verbs come in a couple of different categories. The first is the be verb. Now, we've already talked about the be verb extensively above, because the be verb is either functioning as a linking verb or it is functioning as a helping verb. So, once again, these forms, am, are, is, was, were, being, and been, are often functioning as helping verbs. And be itself, I forgot to include that in there. Have, has, and had are often functioning as helping verbs. Do, does, and did often function as helping verbs. And then we have this last class, the modal verbs. And these things are only ever helping verbs. They cannot function as main verbs. Can and could, shall and should, may, might, will, would, and must. Now, why exactly these things come in pairs doesn't really matter so much to us right now, but historically they were present and past tense forms of each other, although today they are often used in different ways in their two different forms. Anyway, these are the 22 helping verb forms. The be verb forms, the 3 forms of have, the 3 forms of do, and then the 9 modal verbs. And you'll see that that last modal verb must does not have a pair. It's sort of a lonely little thing. Now, before we go on to perhaps the most important part of this second half of the presentation on identifying verb phrases, we're going to once again jump out of the PowerPoint and go over to our smartboard files, and we'll make this full screen here so that we can have a little bit more room to work with. And the first thing that we need to get down is that with these first 3 classifications of helping verbs, namely the be verb forms, the forms of do, and the forms of have, they can be functioning as other things. And we've already talked about how the be verb can be used as a linking verb. And so we need to make a couple of examples so that we can identify the difference. And that's one of the things that I expect my students on quizzes, for instance, to be able to distinguish between is, when is the be verb functioning as a linking verb versus when is it functioning as a helping verb. And maybe we'll go back to our previous example that we used for be verb as linking verb. And I'll talk about myself again. I am Mr. Jones. And once again, in this sentence, we have am linking the subject of the sentence I with a noun that is further identifying the subject. Over here, we're going to do a helping verb sentence beginning with I am, and I will write, I am writing on my smartboard. Now, what is the difference here, guys, between am as a linking verb and am as a helping verb? Well, in this sentence, am is accompanying another verb, namely writing. And the way that we identify, an easy way to identify when a be verb form is functioning as a helping verb is because it is the verb that it is accompanying is always an ing form. All right? I am writing on my smartboard. And that's the best way to figure out whether the be verb is functioning as a linking verb or as a helping verb. Is it going along with an ing word? All right? Just a couple more examples. Tom is happy versus Tom is eating ice cream. And you see how in the first sentence on the left, it is linking the subject to an adjective, whereas over here on the right, it is accompanying or helping a verb ending in ing. One more example. The girls were Mr. Jones's students. Versus over on the right, the girls were studying verbs. In this first sentence, were is linking the subject girls to a noun, students, which is further identifying the girls. In this sentence, by contrast, were is accompanying or helping a main verb ending in ing. Okay, I think you get the point. Now, the next thing we need to consider is along these same lines, we need to look at do and have. So on the left, we have do and have as action verbs. Over on the right, we have do and have as helping verbs. And with action verbs, we really need to think of the basic meaning of do as in doing something. And the best examples to think of are actions that we express using do. For instance, Sally does her homework after school, assuming that she is a diligent and responsible student. In this sentence, does is the only verb. It is not helping anything. It is the verb. It's an action verb. It's the main verb, right? Let's go over here. Sally does not always enjoy doing her homework. sad truth? Well, in this sentence, guys, does is not an action verb. It is a helping verb, helping out the main verb, enjoy. So you see, that is one example in which we use do, does, did as helping verbs. And there are really three ways that do, does, did become helping verbs. And this would be actually the first category. And this is when we are making negative sentences. And we recognize that because there's a not in there. And that's how we make negative statements in English, is we use do, does, and did. Another example of a way that we can use does as a helping verb would be to form questions, as in the sentence. Does Sally ever forget to do her homework? Hopefully not. And once again, does is not the main verb here. Rather, it is accompanying the main verb forget. And that's the second way in English that we use do, does, and did as helping verbs, right? We use them to make questions. There is a third way that we use do, does, and did as helping verbs. And this is for emphasis. For instance, let's say that Sally's father, Ken, is defending Sally against accusations that Sally sometimes forgets to do her homework. And let's say that Ken says that Sally does forget to do her homework, comma, but not often. Once again, we have does, not the main verb, but rather it is accompanying the verb forget. And we're going to call this use of do, does, and did for emphasis. We are emphasizing the word forget, and we're doing that by somewhat insistently adding a does to say that Sally does forget to do her homework, but not often. Okay, hey guys, you can come up with your own examples, own further examples using do and did. But now let's also talk about using have, has, had as action verbs versus using them as helping verbs. And because this is getting a little bit cluttered here, I'm actually going to erase my does examples. Ooh, maybe I'll use the palm of my hand, do it a little more quickly. Oh. Somehow I think I need to make that eraser a little larger. Oh, that's another thing we can do here. Guys, I'm just learning how to use a smartboard effectively, so please bear with me. Oh, good. See how nice that was. And I forgot to get rid of this thing. Delete. Okay. And we'll focus now on have. Get rid of some of these silly little things I have up here. And we'll focus on have now. And I'll talk about myself again for a little minute. Mr. Jones has about 150 students this year who are all very, very eager to learn about verbs. Guys, in this sentence, has is the only verb. It is the main verb. It is an action verb. That is in contrast to a sentence such as, Mr. Jones has created this presentation. In this sentence, has does not have any meaning in itself, right? Rather, it is accompanying the main verb created. And what is the purpose of has in this second sentence? It's really to give us some sort of a time frame in which this has happened. In other words, it's not something he will do in the future. It is something that he has done in the past or has done recently. One more example using have, has, and had as helping verbs. And we'll say that Jimmy has a red pen. Right? Once again, very simple. Has is the only verb in this sentence, so it is the main verb here. In contrast to the sentence over here, Jimmy has had this pen since he found it in his, let's say, Christmas stocking. In this sentence, we have two forms of have, by the way, next to each other, which could confuse people. But what we want to remember is that the first form of have, namely has, does not have any meaning in itself. Rather, it is accompanying had as a main verb and helping us give some sort of a time frame for when Jimmy has found this pen, or how long Jimmy has had this pen. Okay, so guys, that's really it for distinguishing between do, does, did, and have, has, had as action verbs versus when they are functioning as helping verbs. Now that really just leaves us with one more thing to cover, and this last part is easy, and that is modal verbs. And I'm going to do this and click out of this full screen mode, and we'll just, oh no, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to do the dual page, turn off the dual page display. You see how much I'm learning trying to put these presentations together. And so now we have modal verbs to deal with. And modal verbs are simple because they are only ever helping verbs. And I just challenge you to take one of those 9 forms that we discussed: can, could, shall, should, may, might, will, would, must, make a sentence with it, and you'll see very quickly that these words always go with other verbs. All right, I'm just going to make a couple here. All right. I can tell you the way. In this sentence, can is helping the verb tell. Let's make one with might. You might think this is strange. Once again, you have might accompanying another verb, think. One more example. We must not forget our books. Here you have must accompanying the main verb forget. All right, so let's go back to our PowerPoint. And the last thing that we need to cover in this presentation is verb phrases, right? And verb phrases consist of the main verb plus any helping verbs that go along with it. In the following sentences, the verb phrases are italicized. Okay, first sentence, I can speak Chinese. The main verb here is speak. Can is the helping verb. The verb phrase is can speak. Have you ever been to France? In this sentence, the main verb is been. The helping verb is have. And the verb phrase is have been. Santa Claus is coming to town. Look at that. I made a Freudian grammar mistake and misspelled Santa's family name as Claus, C-L-A-U-S-E, rather than Claus, C-L-A-U-S. Ha ha. Santa Claus is coming to town. Coming is the main verb, is the helping verb. Did you see Brad Pitt's latest movie? See is the main verb, did is the helping verb. Did see is the verb phrase. Now guys, we're almost at the end of the lesson here, but we also, before we finish, we need to consider verb phrases with more than one helping verb. And here are some examples of sentences with verb phrases containing two helping verbs. John has not been coming to class for the past month. The main verb in this sentence is coming, and the two helping verbs are has and been. So the verb phrase is has been coming. Finally, I will be flying to Las Vegas by this time tomorrow. The main verb is flying. The two helping verbs are will be. The verb phrase is will be flying. And we can also have sentences with three helping verbs, as in this sentence. You should have been studying last night rather than watching TV. Studying is the main verb, and the three helping verbs are should, have, and been. Well, guys, that concludes this lesson on verb basics. Please stay tuned for lesson number 3 on adjectives and adverbs.